Welcome to The Breakdown with Benjamin Nowain for the week starting August 23rd through September 19th. Update on the timeline for the court case against Carlos Zapata. Jury selection began on August 24th, with evidence being presented starting on Tuesday, August 31st. The last evidence presented was on Thursday, September 16th. Arguments are expected to conclude on Tuesday, September 21st. The case will then go into jury deliberation with results expected thereafter, potentially before this even airs. A news cafe has been chronicling the case in near real time, so details can be read on the site. Recently, a $50,000 donation to Recall Shasta was made by billionaire Reverge Anselmo. Since the beginning of the effort, Recall Shasta proponents have insisted that this was a grassroots effort to recall 3 supervisors due to their following of state pandemic guidelines. Reverge has had a long and storied history in Shasta County that I recently covered in an episode of The Breakdown. I did find it important to reiterate that Reverge donated $115,000 to Patrick Jones' campaign for supervisor in 2020. Patrick Jones won the District 5 supervisor seat and is currently supportive of Recall Shasta's effort to recall his colleagues. Reverge was also recently featured in episode 2 of the Red, White, and Blueprint docuseries. In the episode, he states that he would come back to Shasta County if the 3 supervisors were recalled, and the Resource Management Department was removed. On September 1st, the Cascade Theater announced that all attendees would need to either show proof of vaccination or proof of a negative COVID-19 test taken within 72 hours of the performance date to attend. In response, Carlos Zapata, co-founder of the Red, White, and Blueprint docuseries, made a public statement via Instagram that stated his intention to boycott the Cascade for their safety protocols. This is notable due to past statements made by both Carlos Zapata and Recall Shasta regarding supporting local businesses' rights to run their businesses as they see fit. Many venues are making the decision to implement this requirement for the safety of their staff and community. The first shows in over 16 months on Broadway will have much of the same restrictions regarding proof of vaccination, with some also requiring face masks regardless of the vaccination status. It is also important to note that many performing artists have what are called pandemic riders, which are contracts that prohibit them from performing at venues without COVID protocols. Many community members have refunded their tickets for a recent show for Colt Ford, a country music singer, because of the new protocols. The Cascade's response? Donating the canceled tickets to veterans, first responders, and healthcare workers. On September 9th, Shasta Ford released signed letters from former city council members and a former city manager about their experiences with Supervisor Patrick Jones. Speaking of their time on the council, the letters all categorically deny that an alleged closed-door meeting to vote on firing then-Police Chief Leonard Modi ever took place. Former city council member Mary Stiegel states, quote, "If the vote did happen, why did Mr. Jones wait 14 years to say something? Why didn't he step forward at the time? Answer? Because it never happened." Former councilmember Rick Bassetti stated that, quote, "Jones fancies himself as the arbiter of truth and transparency when he in fact is pathologically unable to speak the truth." Other letters written by former councilmember Ken Murray and former city manager Kurt Starman share the same sentiment, and also note that city council cannot vote to fire the chief of police, stating that it, quote, "would be inappropriate for the council to vote to terminate any employee other than the city manager or the city attorney. These are the only 2 people over which the city council has direct control. The chief of police is hired by the city manager, not the city council, and can only be fired by the city manager." In a bizarre turn, Patrick Jones hired a certified polygraph examiner from Bakersfield to perform a polygraph, commonly known as a lie detector test, in an attempt to prove that this meeting did take place. Jones invited local news media and the Red, White, and Blueprint film crew to observe as they filmed the spectacle in a darkened room, complete with flickering overhead lights for dramatic effect. This appears to have taken place for a feature in an upcoming episode of the Red, White, and Blueprint, further illustrating just how closely Jones is involved with both the documentary and the recall effort of his current Board of Supervisor colleagues. Much like Jones, polygraph exams are mired in controversy. According to the American Psychological Association, most psychologists and other scientists agree that there is little basis for the validity of polygraph tests. Courts in many jurisdictions, including the United States Supreme Court, have repeatedly rejected the use of polygraph evidence because of the inherent unreliability. Early theorists believed that deception required effort and thus could be assessed by monitoring physiological changes, such as sweating or increased heart rate, while asking the test subject questions. However, such propositions have not been proven, and basic research remains limited on the nature of deceptiveness. According to Kevin Legg, the polygraph examiner that Patrick Jones personally hired, the test indicated he was truthful. Recall Shasta began collecting signatures on June 1st, 2021 for the recall of the 3 Shasta County supervisors. This law gives them 120 days in order to secure nearly 4,500 votes per district, which is needed to trigger a recall election. All signatures need to be turned in by September 29th, a date which is fast approaching. On a recent podcast, Red, White, and Blueprint co-founder John Knight stated they had enough signatures to trigger a recall election for Leonard Modi.
Yeah, well, it's been announced that we got enough certified signatures for Modi. Woohoo!
Leonard.
I mean, take a shot, celebrate. I know a lot of people have been left in the dark about this, and I'm not sure the strategy behind that, but 100% we got Modi.
However, Recall Shasta has not made such a statement. In fact, on September 16th, Recall Shasta filed a petition to extend the date for their signature gathering efforts. A similar tactic was used earlier this year for Gavin Newsom's recall petition. An extension was granted. The case was made to the Superior Court of California that the original recall effort started in the pre-pandemic month of February 2020, and as such, successfully referenced cases that set precedents regarding burdens that directly affected signature gathering efforts. The extension was granted and gave petitioners an additional 120 days, ending on March 17, 2021. Attempting to replicate the tactic used in signature gathering for Newsom, Recall Shasta has requested an additional 34 days to gather signatures. Recall Shasta references the Air Quality Index as proof that the air was hazardous during the affected periods and hampered signature gathering efforts. Following Recall Shasta's recent actions indicate the air quality hasn't impeded their signature gathering efforts at all. Case in point, recall proponent Kathy Stainbrook on August 16th held a protest with one child holding a "Let the Children Breathe" sign. This was in 265 AQI. Here is District 5 Supervisor Patrick Jones and recall supporters just one day later, marching in nearly 300 AQI, complete with an unauthorized signature table outside the Board of Supervisors chambers. And again at Shasta Regional Medical Center on August 26th, where the AQI was over 300. It's unclear if this tactic will work, but the deadline for relief is September 29th, which would be the final day for their signature gathering efforts. And now, the breakdown. On August 23rd, the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine received full approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for the prevention of COVID-19 in individuals 16 years of age and older. The vaccine continues to be available under emergency use authorization for children aged 12 through 15. It also has emergency use authorization for administration of a third dose in certain immunocompromised individuals. Moving forward, Pfizer Biotech has branded their COVID-19 vaccine as Comirnaty. The vaccine receiving FDA approval is notable in Shasta County, as anti-vaccine propagandists and recall proponents have often used the fact that vaccines were not yet FDA approved as evidence that they were not safe for use. While conventional wisdom would dictate that their fear should be alleviated, it is apparent that arguments being made by anti-vaccine propagandists and Recall Shasta are not based on evidential findings. Here we have recall proponent Melissa Magana sharing a statement that the FDA approval is meaningless because the FDA approves things like cigarettes and alcohol. However, this logic doesn't hold water. The FDA doesn't approve tobacco products. Tobacco products are, however, regulated by the FDA based on public health standards that considers the product's risk to the population as a whole. In regards to alcohol, that isn't approved or regulated by the FDA either. Alcohol is regulated by the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, which doesn't require any nutritional labeling. This kind of misinformation campaign by Recall Shasta is concerning, but it isn't unexpected based on their history. They have regularly downplayed the need for any safety protocols during the COVID-19 pandemic. One recall supporter, Brenda Hagar, who attended the unofficial August 17th meeting, stated just several days later that she had COVID. Hagar later attended the August 31st Board of Supervisors meeting and made this statement about masks.
I just got over COVID. My family got over COVID. You know how I caught it? I have a partner that's a mask Nazi, and he's vaccinated. I'm unvaccinated, and I'm not getting the vaccination because I count on my body to take care of itself, which it did. So I'm not getting the shot. So who did he get it from? Did he give it to me or did I give it to him?
I had attended that meeting as well, and myself and others witnessed Hagar leave the boardroom several times to cough in the lobby prior to this speech. To date, Shasta County has seen 276 COVID-related deaths. To put that into perspective, Shasta County has averaged only 3 flu-related deaths per year over the last 16 years. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, 18 members of our community have died of COVID-19. Following FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine, President Joe Biden announced on September 9th that his administration would be implementing a vaccine mandate for federal workers as well as private businesses with 100 or more employees. This mandate would potentially cover 1/3 of all Americans. Unsurprisingly, Recall Shasta leader and anti-vaccine advocate Alyssa McEwen made this Instagram post categorically opposing the Biden administration's proposed vaccine mandates. Recently, Pastor Bill Johnson of Reading Bethel has spoken out against mandates as well.
With the mark of the beast, you can't buy or sell or do business. And without a vaccine, they want you to not be able to buy or sell or do business. Now, I'm not opposing vaccines. I'm just saying this is an interesting dress rehearsal for a bigger issue in the future.
This is notable because parishioners of Bethel make up roughly 10% of the local population and have considerable sway in local politics. I'd like to talk for a moment about historical vaccine mandates. The first vaccine mandate law was enacted in the United States in 1809 for smallpox. In 1905, there was a game-changing Supreme Court case, Jacobson versus Massachusetts, which upheld the Cambridge City law that required smallpox vaccination. The Supreme Court had ruled that citizens don't have the right to place other citizens at risk. In a 7-2 decision, the court upheld the law. Justice John Marshall Harlan wrote a majority opinion noting the collected knowledge of over a century of physicians that vaccines present the spread of infectious disease. That the chance of vaccine injury exists, but the risk is, quote, too small to be seriously weighed against the benefits of vaccination. The liberty established by the U.S. Constitution, he wrote, isn't an absolute right for every person to always be freed from all restraint. He went on to say, quote, in every well-ordered society charged with the duty of conserving the safety of its members, the rights of the individual in respect of his liberty may at times, under pressure of great dangers, be subject to such restraint, to be enforced by reasonable regulations, as the safety of the general public may demand. The ruling didn't allow the government to force vaccination against Jacobson's will, only to levy the fine against him. Harlan's opinion also emphasized legitimate medical exemptions in his application. In 1922, the Supreme Court upheld childhood vaccination mandates to attend school in Texas. The case, Zuck versus King, ruled that the San Antonio School District could constitutionally exclude unvaccinated students from attending the schools in the district in order to protect all children. And that's the breakdown.